As K4 and 3 and the gang continued their journey, finding a way around the bandits was not such a difficult thing. The group they ran into was quite large, but it seems like there's large areas of the border zone that they did not inhabit. They found a nice ridge to walk along that gave them a great view of the canyon. This view would allow them to avoid any future ambushes, and it also presented them with a chance to map out the border zone a little bit more than they would have otherwise. A less direct path means they can explore a little bit more of the border zone before getting to the hub. While traveling through the border zone, the group came across what looked like a Holy Nation military outpost, but it seemed deserted. You could almost say it was in ruins. K4 and 3 asked the rest of the group if they knew anything about this outpost, and unfortunately no one did. But one thing is certain, Tower said, and that is that ruined military outposts are quite rare. This is an opportunity to investigate a military outpost without any interference. As they walked towards the outpost, K4 and 3 couldn't help but notice that the Holy Nation seems to use the exact same architecture type as the United Cities. He wonders if all humans in this era use the same technology. Even with the buildings in ruins, he could tell that the buildings were the exact same architecture type as United Cities. His curiosity only grew when he investigated further. Inside the buildings, their layouts were even the same. The collapsed structure seemed to be identical to the ones that he saw back in Hang. As he pondered the implications, Tower had mentioned that the humans seemed to build all of their structures in the same manner as one another, so perhaps K4 and 3 was onto something. Perhaps they were once all part of the same kingdom. The discoveries made at the military outpost were not groundbreaking, but they were nagging at K4 and 3. He couldn't help but wonder if the different human factions, and maybe even the other species, share some similar origins. And it's not like any of that information will honestly help him in his search, but he does wonder why both the Holy Nation and the United Cities seems to be against one another, and yet they seem to have a few similar ideals. Thankfully for K4 and 3, Tower and Stalker knew a little bit more about the factions. They mentioned that while from the outside, the Holy Nation and the United Cities could appear quite similar, they were actually very different in their core principles. The United Cities had an entire system built around corruption and greed, and you wouldn't find any of that within the Holy Nation, as they are religious zealots and will follow orders without question, without expecting a reward. In fact, the only thing the factions probably agree on is that freedom is not a right you're born with. You either have to earn it or prove that you deserve it. One thing's for certain though, both of these factions represent the worst that humanity has to offer. Several more days pass before the group reaches the hub. During this time, they speak much about the different philosophies of the world that they know of, and of their own personal beliefs, and how they've changed over the course of their lives. As they approach the hub, they all agree that before they leave the hub, they should agree upon a group of principles that they should stand for, something they can promote, something that people can flock to and fight for. He's unsure why, but deep down, K4 and 3 has a feeling that the hub is going to cause a change in the direction of their adventure. When they leave, things will be different. They had only been in town for a couple of minutes, and already K4 and 3 can tell that this place is far more to his liking than anywhere else he's been so far. Even though the town was mostly destroyed, the people seemed to appreciate what little they had. They needed to do some scouting. K4 and 3 allowed Tower and Stalker to choose their own missions, and choose where they wanted to scout out, based on their own capabilities. Almost jokingly, Tower pointed to the giant tower in the backdrop of the town and said that he will start his investigation there. Any military force in town will likely be there, and he would like to meet with their personnel. Stalker, on the other hand, points to the bar. That is where he will begin. That is the best source of information for a small town. Before they begin their mission, K4 and 3 lists out his expectations to his new companions. This is the first time they're going to act as operatives, and he has high expectations for how they are to behave. They must cause no trouble, and until they know it's safe, they cannot reveal any information about who they are and what their current mission is. If they need to give up some details, just tell them they're a roaming band of mercenaries looking for some work. They don't have to accept any missions here, but just letting people know that they're for hire might draw out some unique people. Some people looking for work similar to their own, or even people looking to join up with their band. Right now, they need to act as inconspicuous as possible, and mercenary work seems like it'd be something that could pass through here without drawing attention. As for what information they're looking for, they need to get a general sense of the philosophy that these people believe in, if they have any. They need to figure out who their allegiance is to, and if there's anybody else that comes through here. such as the Holy Nation or United Cities. And they also need to figure out who the most influential people are in town, any local leaders or merchants with some power behind them. It's time we begin expanding our knowledge base of all the local regions. It seems like the hub is going to be a good place to start with this kind of information, as the locals don't seem to be wearing any kind of badges or specific types of armor, suggesting maybe they do not have an allegiance to anybody. The final thing they should try and learn about is the town of Squin. We're going to be heading into Shek territory soon, and if we can gather some information about their ways, that would help us in the near future. Stalker waited for several hours before a group of locals entered, and he was able to slip in behind them and go unnoticed. From there, he found a spot in the corner where he could watch and listen. All of the locals are either too intoxicated or too busy with their daily struggles to notice him in the corner. Tower, on the other hand, was not so subtle. He waited outside the large structure and stared at the locals until one of them asked him what he was doing. And it didn't take long for somebody to ask him what he was doing. Tower was large, by anyone's standards, humans, Shek, or even skeletons. His stature alone caused a bit of panic within the structure, and several members came out to watch what was going on. Tower had to keep things low profile. He was not good with words, and he was easily confused in long, drawn-out conversations. And unfortunately, the people he was up against were silver-tongued. These were the Shinobi Thieves, a group that spans most of the continent. They have small enclaves all over the place, and one could join for a nominal fee if they needed to get something done, a place to train, or a place to rest. Joining the Shinobi Thieves was an excellent place to start, they said. Thankfully, they didn't ask many questions of Tower. The only thing they asked is where he came from, and the simple answer was the Black Desert City, and it seemed to satisfy them. Tower was the first one to report back to K4N3, and the news that there's a local guild that's willing to help out just about anybody for money was good news. Along with the Shinobi Thieves, the hub has no shortage of squatters, many of them on the verge of starvation. These are the type of people that could be eyes and ears everywhere for a very low price. Something to consider. When Stalker returned, he had a great deal of information on the general population to share. Most of the population are outlaws from the Holy Nation itself. All of them despise the Holy Nation. This would be a great place to recruit from if we ever needed to. It might be worth leaving somebody behind for that very reason. And many of the population speak highly of the Shek, even though the Shek don't seem to like outsiders very much. As the conversation went on and got into more detail, K4N3 realized that he would need to leave some people behind. It's time that we began expanding. We need to form a network of like-minded individuals throughout all the different towns. It seems like things are going to escalate quickly, and we need to be prepared for anything that comes our way. After the debriefing, K4N3 gathered up the group, and they had a long discussion about the core principles of the group. If they're going to start a movement, there needs to be something to adhere to, something to bind everyone together, and something for people to look forward to. That is why from this day forward, anyone following their movement needs to adhere to 3 basic core principles. The first and most important is freedom. Every single person has the right to their individual freedom to live and make their own choices as they see fit, without the threat of death or slavery to make the choice for them. The second is fairness. Everyone shall be treated as equals. There's no reason for one person to believe they're better than another. And the third and final one is justice. If you are wronged, you have the right to seek justice. Not revenge, but true justice to make things right, based on a fair assessment of the situation. And the entire group is responsible for ensuring that justice and making sure it's carried out in full, whatever that may be. With the core principles decided upon, the next phase of the movement was to begin. Hinge, Sprocket, and Gearless were going to stay in the hub. They're going to recruit others like them. Skeletons who need a purpose. Skeletons that want to make a difference. And they're going to spread the word of K4N3 and his followers. There's only so much they can do as a single group. Instead, they need to act like gears in a machine. They need to work together to be the engine of change that this world so desperately needs. K4N3 had full faith in the trio he was leaving behind. He had not known them very long, but based on Tower and Stalker's vouching for them, he knew he was making the right choice by leaving these 3 here. They'd be able to sway those curious quite easily, he believed. Many skeletons are just looking for a reason to make change, and these 3 can make a difference here in the hub. And so Hinge, Sprocket, and Gearless took up their post in the hub, a nice quiet corner in the bar where they could watch the locals interact with one another, and they could speak amongst themselves without being overheard. Their task was simple but vital to the entire operation. They felt proud to be posted here in the hub. The locals of the hub are an interesting bunch, the trio found out. Many of them do not have a home. They're squatters. Their lives have been turned upside down or completely ruined by the Holy Nation, and so they fled here, where it seems to be safe. There are many skeletons that come and go with trade caravans. Some of them even live here in town. There's going to be quite the opportunity to meet new and hopefully friendly skeletons. Maybe some will even join our cause, but only time will tell. But it was time for K4 and 3, Tower, and Stalker to head to Squin and meet the Shek. Unfortunately, the hub did not give them very much information on the Shek other than that they don't like outsiders, and so it seems they're going to have their work cut out for them in their investigation. Their only hope is that the Shek don't completely shut them out. They don't know much about them, and so they don't know what to expect. The fact that there's another skeleton in their town hopefully means that they're willing to talk to all skeletons. K4 and 3 is quite eager to meet another one like him, but he's also slightly scared. What might this skeleton know? Worst case scenario would be that he knows nothing, just like him. In that case, this search could almost be for nothing, but he keeps that to himself. And that's where we're going to leave it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.